Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Learning is a treasure that will follow its owner everywhere. Happy morning to everyone present over here. I'm Dr. S. Srividya, convener of this ATAL FDP on machine learning in infotainment systems. On this occasion, I would like to thank AICTE Training and Learning Academy for sponsoring this FDP. I would like to thank our management members, Dr. C. Naganna Sir, Chairman, BNMIT. Sri Narayan Rao R. Mane Sir, Secretary, BNMEI. Professor T.J. Ramamurthy Sir, Director, BNMIT. Dr. S.Y. Kulkarni Sir, Additional Director, BNMIT. Professor Ishwar N. Mane Sir, Dean, BNMIT. Dr. Krishnamurthy G.N. Sir, Principal, BNMIT. And all our HODs, and my dear HOD ma'am, Dr. Sashikala, Professor, Department of ISE, and my dear coordinators, Professor Madhura Prakash and Jagrati, and all my faculty members who encouraged and supported in organizing this wonderful event. Our BNM Institute of Technology is an autonomous institution which was established in the year 2001, and we have currently 6 undergraduate programs: CSE, ISE, EEE, ECE, AIML, and Mechanical Engineering. We have 3 postgraduate programs and also PhD programs. Students have shown consistently good performance and bagged 70 ranks with 43 gold medals at university level. All our 5 UG branches are accredited by NBA, and the institute has been accredited by NAC with A grade. The Department of Information Science and Engineering was established in the year 2001 with an intake of 60 students. Since its inspection, the department has forged a path of technical excellence and innovative teaching methods. The department is comprised of highly qualified, research-oriented teaching staff committed to instill moral values among students in addition to providing cutting-edge technical knowledge. About the program, an in-vehicle infotainment system is a combination of systems that deliver entertainment and information to driver and passengers. They do it using audio and video interfaces, touchscreen displays, button panels, voice commands, and many other features. The main objective of this FDP is to bring practitioners, researchers, and people from industry to discuss the practical usage of machine learning technologies in infotainment systems. Specifically, this FDP is to promote discussion on theory, progress, development, deployment, and the practical usage of machine learning algorithms in infotainment systems. Throughout this FDP, we have experts from various industries, NITs, IITs, and other institutions. I wholeheartedly welcome all the participants who showed their interest in attending this FDP. I would like to thank all the external members who joined for the inauguration of this FDP too. Thank you, Sarita ma'am. Thank you, Kulkarni sir. Thank you, Manjunath sir. And whomever I missed, if I missed anybody, sorry for that. Thank you everyone for joining this FDP. So we are going to start with the first session of our FDP. We have our resource person, Dr. Manjunath. Sir, are you available?
Yes, madam.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So I would like to introduce our resource person, Dr. Manjunath from Manipal Institute of Technology. Before that, if any of the management members, if you want to give your wishes, please kindly share your things. Kulkarni sir.
Yeah, good morning, all of you.
Good morning, sir.
Let me congratulate the department
Thank you, sir.
for this effort to have this FDP on machine learning in infotainment. And as all of you know, now we are talking about more on real-time applications. And whenever we talk about that, I mean, we should also talk about the huge amount of the data which gets collected. And there is an absolute need that, I mean, this data has to be processed, this data has to be analyzed, and converting this data into information and then information into knowledge has become the priority sector now. I think everybody is working on this. And there comes the machine learning, so which has to be used to bring in that knowledge and also the information. I think we need to work on a lot of machine learning algorithms which are going to be useful to and beneficial to different applications. And in that regard, now we have taken a very interesting application. So that is in infotainment, basically information in entertainment. And using the machine learning techniques, I think there's going to be an interesting FDP, and where we can really talk about the application of machine learning, and which is going to be very good exposure. And again, for that, and also looking at the kind of the resource persons we have got, I think it is going to be one of the best faculty development program. And only request all the participants to make best use of this. And wherever it is possible, and this information has to be taken further and training the others, and then getting into these areas, and we're working on this and then making it a very, very useful faculty development program. And also we want this knowledge to be given to our students so that they can also start working in this area and make the best use of this machine learning algorithms required for infotainment systems. So I wish all the best.
Thank you,
And
sir.
looking forward to many interesting lectures by eminent people who have been invited for this. All the best. Yeah, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir. Thank you, sir. HOD ma'am.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm very happy that the Atal FDP on machine learning in infotainment systems has been arranged from our department. And I wish all the best for the Srividya, and also to all the participants. Please learn the things which we are talking over here with the various new applications on the machine learning. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Sarita ma'am.
Namaste to everyone, and good morning. Welcome to BUNMIT. Congratulations to the IS department, of which I'm a part. I'm very happy for this, and I will be attending this program. I'm sure everyone else who's attending this also will find it very innovative and different. And the most important is to actually apply what we learn. Probably in student projects, etc., we could actually apply this. It would be a very useful discussion here. Thank you so much, and all the best to all of you.
Thank you, ma'am. So without any further delay, we would like to start with the first session. So we have our first speaker over here, Dr. Manjunath. So I would like to introduce our resource person, Dr. Manjunath from Manipal Institute of Technology. So his area of interest is machine learning, deep learning, big data analytics, audio or speech signal processing, text processing, and sentiment analysis. He has a huge technical skills in Python, MATLAB, deep learning frameworks, speech processing frameworks, and distributed frameworks. He has completed his research work from NIT Surathkal, and he was a research fellow of Indian Institute of Space, Science and Technology, Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. He has completed many certification courses on Hadoop fundamentals, machine learnings, sequence models, speaker recognition, neural networks, and deep learning. He has given many invited talks, and he is also a member of International Speech Communication Association, IEEE. He received a funding from International Travel Grant obtained from Science and Engineering Research Board, Government of India, to present a paper in Interspeech 2019, Austria. He has received awards from Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology, Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. To his credit, he is having 6 Scopus Index journals and 13 international conferences. So welcome you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You can take over the session. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just I will share my screen. Yeah, ma'am. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, respected teachers, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to discuss about machine learning. So whatever today I'm going to discuss, most of them you know that, and whoever working on the machine learning or the deep learning approaches, basic fundamentals already you know, and you might use the different types of learning algorithms from the Python. Probably we are all using the Python itself. So we may use all the different types of learning algorithms that maybe a machine learning algorithm or maybe a deep learning algorithm. So just in this first session, I want to brush up the few things on the machine learning and deep learning. I'll start with the machine learning, but later I will convert that concept into with the intuition of deep learning. So those things, very fundamentals, I will discuss. So that is all required for our next session, so that it will be helpful for to understand the next deep learning concepts. So even tomorrow also TensorFlow sessions are there, and then later I will discuss about the machine learning, machine listening, audio scene classification. Those are all the methods again uses these machine learning and deep learning concept. So just I wanted to discuss about this fundamentals of machine and the deep learning. Just start with the machine learning and later slowly converted that discussion towards the deep learning. So we know that machine learning is grave out of the work in artificial intelligence. It is a new capability of the computers, and we are using whatever here in we are using many of the applications. Those most of the applications are depends on the deep learning or a machine learning concept, and knowingly or unknowingly thousands of machine learning applications we are using today. Even whenever I go to the Facebook and just open the Facebook, and once you open my photo, then a Facebook application automatically detects my friend's space and instruct me to tag those people. And whenever I am going to the web browser and then simply I type some keyword, then web browser application know how to rank the web pages. And even my email knows that how to filter the spam or the not spam. These are the applications. Those are all depends on the learning applications. Not only this, many different applications are examples are there, mainly in data mining. The data mining is the, if we talking about the data mining, then we have the massive amount of the data, and finally I extract the information out of the raw data and then given to the learning algorithms. So large data set is created from the web click data, and whenever I click on the whenever I click on a product, that every click information storing as a data, and later I use that data for the user applications, or the you can understand the user's behavior, or like user what he buys. Based on that, I can make one recommendation system. Medical records, earlier it was everything as a physical record. Now I am converting it into a electronic records. So biology, genome sequences, protein sequences, DNA sequences are generated. Once we analyze the functions of the protein sequences, then I can use it for the drug discovery, or even we can use it for the identification of the any disease. So completely now biologists are using the learning algorithms. So there are many papers on the Nature, they use the deep learning approaches for identification of the protein functions. So almost all the engineering applications we are using the deep learning today. So yeah, even in case of mechanical engineering, we will try to identify the health of the machine. Machine produces the sound. I will finally collect all the sounds and then try to identify the health of the machines based on the sound. Right, that is also a challenging problem. Most of the engineering fields uses this machine learning or deep learning approaches. So learning algorithms, machine learning algorithms are the applications we can't program by hand. If I tell my student to calculate the distance between the two nodes, then different algorithms he can use and write the program. But these are all the learning algorithms learn by themselves, and these application cannot program by hand. For example, autonomous helicopter, handwritten recognition, most of the natural language processing applications like sentiment analysis, computer vision. So these are all the different applications of the machine or deep learning, and all recommender systems like Amazon. If I go to Amazon site and if I sell some product, so then Amazon always recommends me whenever if I go to the Facebook as well, YouTube as well, and then it tries to recommend me the products. Similarly, Netflix as well. So the definition of the machine learning, there are different definitions according to the different authors. So more relatively, I have taken two. One is according to Arthur Samuel, machine learning is a field of study that gives the computer the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. Right. And one more is Tom Mitchell. So he told that a computer program is said to learn from experience E with respect to some task T, and as measured by performance P, and improves with the experience E. As I know, I read this complete statement. Just consider an example. Suppose our email program watches continuously whether I mark the email as spam or not spam. Based on that, it will learn how to better filter the spam. So what exactly a task in this, what exactly experience in this, what exactly a performance in this. So here the experience is my email program continuously watches me whether I will mark the email as spam or not spam. Based on that experience, it will learn how to filter the spam and the not spam. Here the task is that. So it will learn how to filter the spam and the not spam. So if I have 100 emails, out of the 100 emails, 50 are spam and the other 50 are the non-spam. Spam and other 50 are the non-spam. And if my learning algorithm able to detect all the 50 spam correctly and all the 50 non-spam correctly, then I can say that my system is 100% accurate. Suppose if it able to predict 40 spam correctly and 40 non-spam correctly, then so we will say that my system is 80% of accurate. That is called as the performance. So a computer program is said to learn from its experience. That experience is represented as a E. Once it learns from the experience, then it able to do some certain task. If based on that task, evaluate the accuracy or the performance of that learning algorithm. So based on that performance, we can say that my learning algorithm is good or bad, right? So that is the basic definition of the machine learning. There are 4 types of learning algorithms: supervised, unsupervised, semi-supervised, and then reinforcement learning. So just we will go through the one after the other, and then first we'll start with the supervised learning. All of we know that supervised learning algorithms are broadly categorized into 2 types. One is regression and another one is the classification. So regression predicts the continuous valued input. Consider I have a data set. So This is my data set. I just collected the data set from the Excel. So here the first column of this Excel represent the size of the house in the square feet, and then the second column represent the price of the house in the $1,000 US. So there are data points are there. Size of the house is 500 square feet. For that, price is something 100,000 US. Likewise. So all these data points, all this data I will represent it on the two-dimensional plane. So x-axis represent the size of the house in the square feet, and the y-axis represent the price of the house in the $1,000 US. So if I fit this data point using the straight line, yeah. So then I will use this straight line for the prediction. So simple straight line is also acts as a learning algorithm. So yeah, so I suppose if my friend comes and asks me, if my friend comes and he has the house of size 600 square feet, and what is the price of the house, corresponding price of the house. So corresponding price of the house is approximately 200,000 US, right? So if I give another example, input as 1,300, so it is approximately approximately 280,000 US, right? So for every input there is a corresponding output. For 600 there is 200, and for 1,300 square feet and then 280. So here we will get the continuous output. Regression predict the continuous valued output. The price is continuous valued output. That is a regression. Best example in case of, even if I want to try, if I build a model to find the rainfall of every month of the next 2022. I have all the historical data from 1999 to 2021, every month data. So every month this much rainfall prediction. So I have that data. So based on that data, I want to predict in 2022 what is the rainfall of January, rainfall of February. So every month we will get a one value, so that we will get the continuous valued output. But this is not the case with the classification. In case of classification, algorithms gives the output either as the 0 or the 1, discrete valued output. In case of binary classification, like cancer identification, there are only two classes. So I want the outcome. If I give the input, that is a tumor size, so my learning algorithm should tell that whether it is a malignant or the benign one. So that is only two outputs here. It is not unlike in the previous method, it gives the continuous valued output. Classification gives the only discrete valued output. Not only two classes. In case of sentiment analysis, positive, negative, and then the neutral, there are three classes. So if more than two classes, then we will call that as a multi-class classification problem. We know that. So here as well, I have the different features. So here, different tumor size belongs to this side. This is tumor size increases. And then I have the various data points, then I will draw it over here, and this is completely separated by the hyperplane, or we can say that it is also a straight line. So if any new tumor size comes, if that belongs to this point, so then we can say that that is the, currently the tumor size is not that serious. Please take the medication quickly so that to avoid the tumor size. So based on that learning algorithms, this is the classification learning algorithm. Based on this, if the data point is here, then I can say that whether it belongs to a malignant or whether it belongs to a benign. That is one of the application of the classification. Suppose if I am running a company and if I want to develop a learning algorithm to address each of the two problems, there are two problems. One is I have a large inventory of identical items, and I want to predict how many of these items will sell over the next 3 months. So what exactly it is, whether it belongs to a regression or the classification. So in this case, if you want to, anyone, if you want to discuss with me, or if you have any doubts, please stop me and discuss with me. So in this situation, I have a large inventory of identical items, and then I want to predict how many of these items will sell over the next 3 months. So this is clearly a regression problem. But in the second case, I have a software to examine individual customer account, and based on that account, I will identify that whether that account is hacked or not hacked. So only two classes are there. So it is a classification and this is a regression. So unsupervised learning algorithm. So in this unsupervised learning algorithm, there are no predefined labels associated with the features. Based on the internal properties, I will group the data points into a separate clusters, right? And yeah, this is the unsupervised classification, but there are many examples. I will cluster the different systems, computers based on the RAM size, and even I will cluster the different group of customer based on the, so here based on their buying history. And in case of social network analysis, I will group the different users based on their interest. And in our galaxy as well, I will cluster different stars. Those are the best examples of the unsupervised learning. So we can identify the different problems here, and then some of the problems are belongs to the supervised learning and some of them are belongs to the unsupervised learning. So here given an email labeled as the spam or the not spam. So labeled is already predefined spam and not spam. Learn the spam filter. Identify whether it is a supervised learning or unsupervised learning. So in this situation, already I have a labeled as spam and the not spam. Clearly, it is a supervised learning algorithm. In the second example, given a set of news articles found on the web, those articles I will finally group them into a set of articles based on the same story, based on the sports, based on the politics, right? And then this is one group and this is one group. We do not have a predefined label here and it is clearly unsupervised learning. So given a data set of patient diagnosed either having diabetes or not, learn to classify. Even I already have the predefined label, it is a supervised learning. The final one is the automatically given a database of customer data, I want to group them into a different market segments, like they buy baby products, they buy that is kitchen products. Based on that market segments, again it is an unsupervised one. Yeah, now we will discuss about the mathematical intuition. So just I quickly brush up the few things, like learned the definition of learning, machine learning algorithm, and what exactly a supervised learning algorithm, unsupervised learning algorithm, and then the examples associated with them. So now we will discuss about linear regression with one variable. So we will understand the mathematics behind the linear regression, and then how that mathematics is used for the logistic regression. Then the same mathematics, how can we use it for the neural network and the deep neural networks. So we will discuss with the linear regression with one variable. Again, same problem. The data points are represented on the two-dimensional plane. Here I have the x-axis represent the size of the house in the square feet, and price y-axis represent the price of the house in the $1,000 US. As I told, I built the straight line, and then using the straight line, I am predicting the price of the house, right? So this is a linear regression with one variable is nothing but with one input variable. Input variable here is the size of the house in the square feet, and the output variable I want to predict price. So just we will understand that what mathematics behind in the linear regression. So every machine learning algorithm has a hypothesis. So if you give an input to a hypothesis, that gives the output. So that predicts the output. Every learning algorithm has the hypothesis. Hypothesis has the different meaning in the different field. But in case of machine learning, hypothesis is a part here, the learning algorithm, every learning algorithm associated with the hypothesis, that hypothesis maps the input to a output. Here the input is size of the house and output is the estimated price. Then how to represent this hypothesis in case of linear regression? Hypothesis I can represent here as equation of a straight line. Hypothesis just hypothesis. This is the hypothesis of given value x. X is nothing but here a size of the house. So I have the already data points, size of the house in the square feet, and there is every value, every size of the house has the corresponding price of the house. So these are the actual value. For 2104, the price is 460,000 US dollar. So I want to, the hypothesis associated with the linear regression is the equation of a straight line itself. So we know that this is the equation of the straight line, and theta 1 represents the y-intercept, sorry, it is a slope of the straight line, and theta 0 represents the y-intercept. Right, so theta 0 and the theta 1, and x here, x represents the size of the house. So if I give a input size of the house, that is 2104, then it should able to predict the corresponding price of the house. That price of the house is, that is a predicted value. That predicted value, either we can represent it as a y cap, or you can say that that is a h theta of x. So I want to predict the price on the given input x and the parameters theta. So here I have the two parameters, theta 0 and the theta 1. Using the theta 0 and theta 1 and the input parameters, I want to predict the variables. I know from the data set itself, I will get the, yeah, 1 second, from the just I will switch on my video. Yes, so sorry to interrupt. So here, yeah, I have the, based on this hypothesis, I have an input parameter. I have the input x and then the parameter theta, and then I want to predict the price of the house. So I know the value of x that is available from the data set itself, but I do not know the value of theta 0 and theta 1. So how to identify these parameters? How to choose these parameters, theta 0 and theta 1? Because here I have a dot product between the theta 1 and the input feature. Then finally I will add this dot product with the theta 0. So it is a mathematical operation. I require the numerical value for the theta 0 and the theta 1. How to evaluate those theta 0 and the theta 1? So we know that for different theta 0 and theta 1, we'll give the different straight lines. So if I give the theta 0 as 1.5 and theta 1 is the 0, then here I have a theta 1 equal to 0, and theta 1 is the, as we know that it is the slope, but theta 0, yeah, theta 0 is the y-intercept, right? There is no slope here. So the straight line, this is the straight line. And then in case of theta 0 and 0 and theta 1 is 0.5. So the slope is 0.5 and the y-intercept is 0. So this gives this straight line. And for theta 0, if theta 0 is 1 and theta 1 is 0.5, then gives, this is the straight line. So different theta 0 and theta 1 values gives the different straight line. So our goal is to take the proper theta 0 and theta 1 value that exactly fits this data points. Right. So if I take the wrong theta 0 and theta 1 value, so if there is no slope, just I define the y-intercept. Suppose if I'm using this as the straight line, right, rather than this, without fitting the data properly, I will use the, right, theta 1 as the slope. I will set to slope I will set, I'll 0, and then I will use the only a y-intercept value. So this line I will get. So if I use this line as a predictive model, so we can just consider that if I use the size of the house in the square feet, that is 1000. So the predicted price is 200,000 US dollar. For the input 1500 also the price is 1000 US dollar. For again 1800 is as well the same output, that is 200,000 US dollar. So it is not a good predictive model. For every input I will get the same output. So even it is not continuous valued output. So I have to choose, this is very important to choose the theta 0 and the theta 1 value. So slope and the y-intercept, so that we can draw a straight line that exactly fits the data points. If it fits the data points, then it will give the more accurate results. That is very important. So yeah, so here if I take the theta 0 and the theta 1 value, some I will identify some theta 0 and the theta 1 value randomly, and then I will take the input value feature as 852, and I will take some value for the theta 0 and the theta 1. So then it may predict the price of the house as 180,000 US dollar, but the actual value for 852 is the 178, but my learning algorithm predict the price as the 180. So there is a error between these, that is the difference between the actual and predicted value is 2, that we consider it as a error. So this error always should be minimum. So I have to build a learning algorithm as accurate as possible. That is why in the definition I told that performance is very important. So I build the learning algorithm for doing a specific task. Here the task is to find the price of the house based on the size of the house. But once I build the learning algorithm, I should be able to judge that how accurate my system is, how much accurate it is. So yeah, choose the parameter. Then how to choose those theta 0 and theta 1, how to choose those parameter, either theta 0 or the theta 1. So different theta 0 and theta 1 will be different straight lines, and those straight lines may not fit the data points. So then how to choose those parameters? In this situation, we can choose the parameter so that the hypothesis or the predicted value should be close to the actual value. Yes, I have to choose these parameters. So this predicted value should be close to the actual value. If the predicted value is 180, then the actual value is 178. Still it is acceptable. But if the predicted value itself is 300 and the actual value is 178, then it is the huge difference between the actual and the predicted value. So we have to choose the theta 0 and theta 1 values so that the difference between actual and the predicted value should be minimum. Yeah. Now we have here a hypothesis for the linear regression algorithm theta 0 and theta 1. If you give an input to it and it predicts the price of the house. And also here we have the two parameters theta 0 and then theta 1. And then every learning algorithm is associated with the cost function, even it is also called as the loss function. And then here the cost function of the linear regression is the difference between the predicted and the actual value. So the predicted value is the hypothesis X. If I give an input and then it will predicts the output, right? This is the predicted value. Xi indicates that the one training example, there are n number of training examples, right, in this data set. So from M, so I changes from right 0 to M. So this is a training example. This is the predicted value and this is the actual value. Actual value, that is the price of the house, represented as a y, and then predicted value is represented as the h theta of x. So on the given input X and parameter theta, and what is the value of the price of the house. So we am taking this difference. This difference should be minimum. So this is also called as the mean square error. So I will sum all the differences between all the training example, and training examples changes from 1 to m. I have the data set. So that is indexed with I. First training example is the one size of the house, and it is changes from 1 to m. So finally, I evaluate the difference between. I will evaluate the price of the house for every individual input, and then I will finally take the difference between actual and then predicted value. So I predict price of the house for every input, and then I will take the difference between predicted value and then the actual value, and then I will sum it and consider it as a cost. So every learning algorithm goal is to minimize this cost, minimize the difference between the predicted and actual values. Right. So how to choose those? Still, I didn't answer that. How to choose those parameters, theta 0 and the theta 1. I know the value of X that is directly available from the data set itself, but I do not know the parameters value theta 0 and theta 1. How to choose those parameters? If you choose those parameters, then I should get a straight line. That straight line fits the data as accurate as possible. We can choose those parameters by using the algorithm that is called as the gradient descent algorithm. Most of the deep learning algorithm, this gradient descent algorithm is also known as the optimization algorithm. Most of the deep learning approaches uses the gradient descent algorithm. They uses the different optimization algorithms. Most of the optimization algorithms drawn from the gradient descent. Now I have the function, cost function, right? So this is the theta 0 and theta 1. I have the cost function. My goal is to minimize the cost function, minimize the cost function. So how to minimize the cost function? Randomly, I will start with some theta 0 and theta 1 value and keep on changing the value of theta 0 and theta 1, and I will check that what is the cost function. So if I will find the start with random value, let us say 0 0, and then I will keep changing the theta 0 and theta 1 1 1, and then I will check the cost function from 0 to 1. What is the cost function? So it is reduced, then I can again keep on changing it until we will get the minimal error between the minimal difference between the actual and the predicted value. So I can explain this gradient descent algorithm with this 3D plane. So here I'm standing on the top of the hill. So I'm standing on the top of the hill, and how I will take us, so standing on the top of the hill, and this is the theta 0 and theta 1 value. So corresponding theta 0 and corresponding theta 1 value, and then there is a corresponding cost function for this point. So gradient descent algorithm is standing at this, and it will take a small baby step, and goal of the gradient descent algorithm is to get down from the hill, and it should reach to the bottom. So it is standing on this hill, and it will take a small baby step. Yeah, it will take a small baby step. One second. Yeah, it will take a small baby step, and it comes down to the hill, and then again it will evaluates the theta 1 value and then theta 0 value, and then it takes the cost value. So cost is reducing. So for different theta 0, and again it takes the small baby step and evaluates the theta 1 value, theta 0 value, and even calculate the cost function. So for every step, it is expected to reduce the theta 0 and theta 1 value. And even we are working with the deep learning model, and every epoch of the gradient descent algorithm or every epoch of the optimization, the performance of the deep learning algorithm is always increases, right? If the model is not in overfitting state, so the performance of the model is increases for every iteration. That iteration is also known as the epoch. So here also the same thing. In every iteration, the gradient descent algorithm takes the small baby step and get down from the hill, right? So this is also called as the convergence. So it will start from here and it will reach this global minima. At this minima, I have the theta 0 value and theta 1 value, and that gives the that theta 0 and theta 1 gives the a minimal difference between the actual and the predicted value. And it is not necessary that gradient descent algorithm always take this step. So it may take this step, and ultimate goal is to reach the global minima. Each time I will change the value of theta 0 and theta 1 and check the cost function. So for every step, cost function should be reduced. For every change of theta 0 and theta 1, the cost function is expected to reduce. Right, and finally I will reach this, that is the optimal theta 0 and theta 1 values gives the least error between the actual and the predicted values. So what exactly that gradient descent algorithm? So the gradient descent algorithm, yeah, this is the gradient descent algorithm. Gradient descent algorithm, repeat until convergence, repeat until it reaches the minimal difference between the actual and predicted value. So here I have the theta equal to theta subscript j changes from 0 to 1. I can write it as theta 0 is equal to theta 0 minus alpha, and then partial derivative of with respect to d theta 0 of the cost function theta 0 and then theta 1. And also I can update the value of theta 1 minus alpha differentiation of cost function with respect to theta 1. Right, alpha here it is a learning parameter, so learning rate. If I use the small value here, then the gradient descent takes the small baby steps to reach the minimum value. Or if you take so it will perfectly converge. So if you take the largest value of the alpha, then my model may not be converged, it may overshoot. So that is why in most of the learning algorithm, even whenever we are dealing with the deep learning, everyone, if model is overfitting, then some of us those who know the deep learning always instruct us to reduce the learning rate, gives the minimum learning rate and check it. So I will give the minimum learning rate and check the every epoch, whether every iteration, whether my model gives the better accuracy or the minimum error between the actual and the predicted values. Yes. So that is the case. That is the learning algorithm, and I have the differentiation with respect to theta 0, differentiation of cost function with respect to theta 0. So I will evaluate the differentiation, then I will multiply with the alpha. Then if this result gives the negative, this the result, this differentiation result, if it is negative, then I will add this value because it is a negative. So I will negative, I will add this result to the theta 0. And then similarly also again I will evaluate the cost function, and then if this result is negative and I will add it, or if this result is positive, then I will subtract this value from the theta 1, because theta 0 and theta 1 I initialize with the random values. Then I will keep on changing those values based on this differentiation. I will every time evaluate the differentiation with respect to the cost function. To make it clear, so just I will evaluate the differentiation of this two models, so then you will better understand this. I have the linear regression cost function, and even I have the anti-repeat this gradient descent algorithm. So if I will just take one extra empty slide. So I'm just going to the little mathematics. Just I will try to solve this equation. Later many algorithms are there. So based on this solution, I will try to explain them. So here, as I told, gradient descent algorithm is theta 0 minus alpha, differentiation of cost function with respect to theta 0 and then with respect to theta 0. So now I have the random value of theta 0 and then some value of learning parameter. So I will solve this equation, cost function. We know the cost function is 1 by 2m. Then I will evaluate the difference between all the training examples starting from 1 to m. So h theta of xi, this is the hypothesis. We already know what exactly a hypothesis is. So in case of hypothesis, theta 0, theta 1 x I, right? This is a training example. If I give the input, then it gives the predicted value. So predicted value minus actual value, there is a difference. Yeah, this is the cost function. I want to calculate the differentiation of the cost function according to the gradient descent algorithm. Theta 0 minus alpha, I will take out the constants 1 by 2m summation of I is equal to 1 to m differentiation of d theta 0. It is with respect to d theta 0. This is h theta of 0, right? So now I will h theta, no, it's not theta 0. It consider both theta 0 and theta 1. Again, I will simplify this equation, as we know that the h theta of 0x is nothing but theta 0 theta 1 xi, one training instance, minus yi. Yeah, calculate the differentiation. Theta 0 minus alpha 1 by 2m summation of I is equal to 1 to m. Differentiation with respect to, sorry, it is square, sum of the square, right? So differentiation with respect to theta 0, it is just like x square in case of, so it is 2x. So what I will do it, 2 theta 0 theta 1 xi minus y cap. So it is differentiation with respect to the theta 0. So theta 0, it is, I think it is 1. So final differentiation, I can write like theta 0 minus alpha, 2 get cancelled, 1 by m, summation of I is equal to 1 to m, theta 0. So I will again represent this back to hypothesis, h theta of xi minus yi. That's all. This is the differentiation, right? So I will evaluate the difference and then I will multiply it with the alpha and then divided it with the m and finally subtract it from the theta 0 if it is positive. If it is positive, or if this result is negative, then I will add it to theta 0. So in this way, I will keep on changing the value of theta 0 and the theta 1. Every epoch, I will do this. This is one. And as well as in case of the differentiation with respect to the theta 1. So theta 1, I will directly write this theta 1. So minus alpha differentiation with respect to theta 1. We know that this is the cost function, right? And then theta 1, I will directly write cost function minus alpha. So differentiation, we know that this is 1 by 2m and then differentiation, and also I will evaluate summation of I is equal to 1 to m and then h theta of xi minus yi, then it is a square. So if we take that minus alpha, then if I take the differentiation of this, just before that I will simplify this, alpha 1 by 2m summation of I is equal to 1 to m differentiation of d theta 0 plus theta 1 x of I minus y of I square. So take the differentiation x square exactly as same as this before. I'll take this as summation of I is equal to 1 m differentiation of d theta 0. So theta 0, it is differentiation with respect to theta 1. So theta 1 xi minus yi. So differentiation with respect to theta 1. Theta 1 is nothing but this point. So theta 1 xi. So it is the differentiation of 2x is 2. Same thing here. The differentiation of theta 1x with respect to theta 1 is xi. Yes. So finally we'll get. So repeat until convergence. So I will update value and then I will even update the value of theta 1. This is xi as I evaluated, right? So alpha 1 by m and then difference between the predicted and actual value and then multiplied with the x of I input feature. So I will in every epoch I will update the value of the theta 0 and then the theta 1. So I can write this as in the other words. So I have here one box, right? That is hypothesis. This is represented as theta 0, theta 1, x, right? What are this hypothesis takes the 3 input parameters in simple way. What are the 3 input parameter? It takes the x, input x. It takes the theta 0 value and it takes the theta 1 value, right? And based on this theta 0 and theta 1 value, it evaluates the hypothesis, nothing but it predicted value. So theta 0 and then it predicts the value, right? This is h theta of x. It predicts the value. Once it predicts the value, right, then I will evaluate the cost function j theta 0 and theta 1. So predicted value is h theta of x and actual value is y of this h theta of x and actual value is y of x. So I will evaluate the difference between these two and evaluate the cost function. Cost function is the mean square error. So first I will predict it and then I will evaluate the cost functions. Once you evaluate the cost function, then what I will do, I will take again the differentiation with of cost function with respect to d theta 0, and also I will evaluate the differentiation of cost function with respect to theta 1. So in short and sweet, I will write a differentiation with respect to theta 0 as d theta 0 and differentiation with respect to theta 1 we call it as the d theta 1. So I will use this d theta 0 and d theta 1 and then I will update the theta 0 value, theta 0 minus alpha d theta 0, that is differentiation with respect to theta 0, and theta 1 again I will update theta 1 minus alpha d theta 1. Yes, again theta 0 and theta 1, new values of the theta 0 and theta 1, and then again the same input, and then I will evaluate predict the hypothesis, that is a predicted value. Using the predicted value, I will evaluate the cost function. Once you get the cost function, again I will run the gradient descent algorithm. According to the gradient descent algorithm, I will evaluate the differentiation of theta 0 with the cost, differentiation of cost with respect to the theta 1. I will evaluate those differentiation. Again, I will update the theta 0 and theta 1. So first, what I am doing here, I am predict the value and then cost function. This is called as the forward propagation. And once you evaluate the cost function, then I will again update the value of the theta 0 and theta 1 by taking the differentiation with respect to theta 0 and theta 1, right? That is called, this differentiation part. This is called as the backward propagation. So on the every epoch or on the every iteration, first I will perform the forward propagation and then I will print the mean square error, the difference between the actual and predicted value. And then in the backward propagation, what I will do, I will update the value of theta 0 and theta 1 and again move towards the forward propagation. So all deep learning algorithms, most of the deep learning algorithms are working in this fashion. So first they will move towards the forward propagation and they produces the result, and then again updated the parameters or hyperparameters. Then again it will in the backward propagation, and then again takes the forward propagation and print the results. So this is the intuition behind on the most of the deep learning approaches. Yeah, so same thing here again. Size of the house for different theta 0 and theta 1 value by the gradient descent algorithm. I will keep on changing the theta 0 and theta 1 value from this, and then I will get this straight line, and then again I will change here. It will the one more value theta 0, one more theta 0, and then theta 0 value, and then theta 1 value. Then I will get this straight line. Data points are here, and then I will change the theta 0 and theta 1 value using gradient descent, and keep on changing the theta 0 and theta 1 value, so that straight line exactly fits all the data points. So this might be a good predictive model. So that is what about the linear regression. So any doubts in this case? So little mathematics I discussed in all the points. So just I wanted to discuss about how exactly the gradient descent algorithm works. So whatever the algorithm you take, either machine learning or to be the deep learning, all the algorithms have its own hypothesis. So if you give the input to that hypothesis, and then it gives the output. That output that is the predicted output. Then I will, using that predicted output, I will evaluate the cost function. Once you get the cost function, then that cost function is used for the optimization algorithm, that is gradient descent algorithm, like gradient descent algorithm. So optimization algorithms using that cost function tries to come up with the new theta 0 and theta 1 parameter, or the new parameters. Those parameters are expected to reduce the error between the actual and the predicted value. Ultimate goal is to for every learning algorithm, ultimate goal is to identify or get the good performance, highest performance. So every epoch or every iteration, the learning algorithm learns better, and then it gives the best recognition accuracy. So that's why we will talk about, so my model is 80% accurate and my model is 90% accurate. 90% accurate in the sense it has the very least difference between the actual and the predicted value. Right. And in the most of the current deep learning approaches, so if we have the massive amount of data and it takes days together to run this optimization algorithm, and every iteration the optimization algorithm tries to update the parameters value. So those parameters values gives the minimal error. And in the previous example, in the linear regression, I have considered the hypothesis as theta 0 and theta 1 xi. In most of the modern deep learning approaches uses this theta 1 as the weight, W transpose xi, I can consider it as. So it is considered it as a weight parameter, and then this theta 0 is considered it as a bias. So bias plus W transpose, there is a dot product between the matrix multiplication between the weight and the x input x. So this is the simple linear equation. Most of the deep learning approaches uses this equation. So B plus W transpose xi. So just again, I will try to use the same equation to perform classification. Right. So I want to perform a binary classification here. So if I give an image, then my learning algorithm should be able to identify whether the image is cat image or non-cat image. So if it is 1 or 0, we know that image includes the 3 channels. Those are red, green, and then blue channels, right? And then the values, pixel values ranges from 0 to 55. So I want to use the same equation, V plus W transpose X with few modification to perform the classification. So for that, I will discuss about the logistic regression. Then logistic regression comes means this is again a learning algorithm. Once we are discussing about the learning algorithm, then we have to understand what is the hypothesis belongs to that learning algorithm. Now we have a sophisticated packages. So just I will import the logistic regression, I will import the whatever layer, whatever the learning algorithm I want. But it is better to know that how the learning algorithm exactly working. It is especially very useful in case of the, if we want to work in the industry, then they require everything. Then we need to explain, we need to understand the complete structure of the learning algorithm. Most of them we use the learning algorithms randomly without understanding their intuition and without understanding whether this model is applicable to my data set or not, without understanding their mathematical background. And understanding the mathematical background and understanding the hypothesis belongs to each of the learning algorithms is very, very important, because the data is different in different scenario. In case of, if I consider the image, so this is the fixed spatial value, frequency value here. But if I consider my speech, so speech is continuously changing over the time. I am speaking and it is continuously changing over the time. In such situation, this is sequential data, right? For the, this is also called as sometimes even this is a sequential data. So for the sequential data, we have to use the different learning algorithm. For spatial data, we have to use the different learning algorithm. So to better understand this, so for if you go with any learning algorithm, first better understand that hypothesis belongs to the each of the learning algorithm. So now logistic regression, what is the hypothesis with this? So I will represent again a hypothesis. So I will now use, instead of using this theta 0 and the theta 1 value, so I will use the, in place of theta 1, I will use the W weight parameter, and in case of theta 0, I will use the bias. So just I want to now discuss more towards the deep learning models. So that is why. So h theta of x, so I can consider this as h weight and bias on the given input xi, right? So then yeah.
Please explain the role of bias.
Yeah, ma'am. I will explain. Once the deep learning approaches starts, then I will explain about the bias. Bias is just an assumption about the deep learning. It's an assumption about the model. So it is most of the time my bias value is to be a 0 only. Most of the time we will take the bias value is the 0. And in case of, as I told, theta 0, just I am taking the theta 0 as the bias value. So here it is. In case of linear regression as well, bias is nothing but theta 0 is nothing but this is the y-intercept, right? It is depends on the learning algorithms. Intercept, it is a y-intercept if I am working with the linear regression. But if I am working with the deep learning approaches, most of the time it is 0 and it is considered as, and it is used as the model assumption. Based on that assumption, model perform better. Yeah, I will discuss that more about the bias in case of in with the deep learning approaches. Is that fine, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, now, yeah, this is the hypothesis. What is the hypothesis in this case? Yeah, now the same hypothesis I will use, the same linear equation of the straight line I will use. W trans, so B plus W transpose XI. Yes. So then if I consider the same equation of straight line again, then is it yeah, for the logistic regression as well, then the question will arise, for all the learning algorithms have the same hypothesis or what? No, because here in this case, if I use the same equation of straight line, then all the equation of straight line, then my output is the continuous valued output. This is just an equation of straight line. I will give the input x to it and like a size of the house. So price of the house for one input may be 200 and another input might be 300. Another input might be 400. So I will get the continuous output. So this works as a regressor. So I do not want that. Here my ultimate goal is I want the output as the either 0 or 1. I do not want the continuous output. I want the discrete output. So what I will do is just I will modify this equation of straight line with the I will pass this equation of straight line to a function sigmoid. Right, this is the sigmoid, and we all know that the equation of the sigmoid is 1 divided by 1 plus e to the power of minus z. Right, so I will consider this entire equation of straight line as the z. Right, and then I will consider it the z as an input parameter to the sigmoid. Sigmoid is nothing but this equation of this is the equation of the sigmoid. And then now I have the equation of a straight line z. So if this z value, if this z value is too large, so this is continuous valued only 200, 300. If it is too large, then this sigmoid is always changes from 0 to 1. So this gives the value from 0 to 1. If this value is too large, z value is too large, then the sigmoid value here we can consider. I have written the value of the z here. If the z value is too large, then this side, if the z value is too large, then the value of the sigmoid is more tending towards the value 1. If the z value is small, then its value is tending towards the 0. And if the z value, whatever the linear equations I evaluated, that is a z. So if that z value is 0, then it becomes 1 divided by 1 plus e to the power of 0, that is nothing but 1 by 2. So it is 0.5. So whenever the z value is 0, then the sigmoid value is 0.5, and whenever the z value, the linear equation value is too high, then the z value is more tending towards the 1, and if the z value is small, then it is more tending towards the 0 value. So because I want here the what is the value, I want either the output as 0 or 1. That's all. If you give the input linear equation to the sigmoid, then it gives the probability. So that probability is this is a 50% probability. So 0 to 1 it is, right? So this is the probability will change from 0 to 0.5. If you pass the 0, then we will give it as a 0.5 value, and if it is less than 0, z value is too small. If it is less than 0, then we are tending towards the 0. The probability is tending towards the 0, and if the z value is too large, then the probability value is tending towards the 1. So that's all. So that is the sigmoid. If just this is the hypothesis of the logistic regression, it acts as a classifier. It gives the value either 0 or it has the 1. Again, for the sigmoid, the same input is the equation of a straight line. That's all. That is what I am doing. So here I have y, predicted value y. So h theta of x, even I will represent it as the y cap. So I have on the input x, what is the probability of this input x is, what is the probability of this input x is mapped to the mapped to 1 and probability of the input x is mapped to 0. So I will get the probability that y cap is always changes between the 0 to 1. And yeah, even you might use it the sigmoid in case of deep learning approaches. Most of the time when the if I'm dealing with the in every time, not most of the time, in every time, if I am dealing with the binary classification, the output layer is always associated with the activation function, that is sigmoid. So that is why it is a binary. Sigmoid is a binary class. So using sigmoid, I can, for logistic regression is the binary classifier. So it gives the output as 0 or it is to be a 1. And if I am using, in case of deep learning, sigmoid activation function and the output layer, the last layer, then I'm trying to predicting the output as either 0 or it is the 1. If I'm using the softmax, then softmax I use it for the multi-class classification problem. So yeah, we will stick to this sigmoid one. Yeah, I have it is a parameters W and then bias, and everything else is same than the previous case. And once we know the hypothesis, then we can understand that what is the loss function. So that loss function is required for the optimizer to evaluate the difference between the actual and the predicted values. So loss function, it is not just the sum of square difference between the predicted and the actual values, actual output values. So for that here, the loss function, this is the logistic regression loss function is y log y cap. So plus, so no need to worry about this, how it is derived. And this is the mathematical log, it's a mathematical cost function associated with the logistic regression. And here I have y is the actual value, y cap is the predicted value. So if y is equal to 1, so if my actual value y is equal to 1, so this part I will use it for the to evaluate the loss function, because 1 minus y is 0. If y is equal to actual value is 0, then this first part is becomes 0, then this part I will evaluate for the cost function. So once I get the cost function, I will not go much detail into this. Once I get the cost function about this, so using that cost function, then what I will do, then I will use the gradient descent algorithm. I will evaluate the cost function with respect to the W. It is also known as the DW. Then I will evaluate the value of W. So I will evaluate the value of W. Each time I will evaluate the value of W, then my model is tending towards the minima. This is also known as the global minima. I will get the global minimum value, the minimum error between the actual and the predicted value. So every algorithms, again, it is to be the same. So W, I will keep on updating the W and keep on updating with the bias. Yeah, now I will start with the computing gradients. Here, logistic regression, same thing as the previous one. This is I already explained in the linear regression as well. Here I have the X, W, and then the B, and B here is the y-intercept for the my linear equation, and then W is the slope of my linear equation. So first I will evaluate the Z value, that is nothing but the linear equation value. Once you get the linear equation, then use the sigmoid to it. So sigmoid gives the probability, that probability is more tending towards either 1 or it is towards the 0. So that is also known as the activation. So that is why I will use the word A. Once you get the A is also known as the predicted value. Once we know the A, then we will evaluate the cost function. It is completely a forward propagation, right? Once you get the cost function, again, I have to find the differentiations with respect to W and the differentiation with respect to beta, bias, and then I will apply the value of WB and then again go for the forward propagation. Evaluating the differentiation is in the backward propagation, exactly same. So this is DW is, as I already evaluated the using differentiation, I already evaluated the gradient descent in the previous slides. So dw is dzx, it is the differentiation value. First loss function is this one, differentiation of loss function with respect to a and differentiation loss function with respect to y. So I will calculate the differentiation and differentiation with respect to a and differentiation with respect to z. So differentiation with respect to z gives the a minus y, and even you can calculate this differentiations. So exactly it will gives the a minus y. It is easiest one. So differentiation with respect to cost function. So convert this is cost. This is the cost function. We know the differentiation of log a, and once you get the differentiation, and even we know the differentiation of the sigmoid, right? And then once you get that differentiation, then you can come back to the dz. So once you get the dz, then we'll update the value of dw and db. So just a few lines. I think I have only 10 minutes. Few lines I will discuss about this deep learning model with the same concept again: forward propagation, backward propagation, and then the optimization algorithm. So even we can say that this is the logistic regression as the one hidden layer neural network. It has only one hidden unit. There is a one. This is the input. If I'm talking about the same concept with respect to the neural network, and I'm considering the inputs, so it is x probably, and it is weight, and it is bias. So xwb I have, and that is considered it as the input. Here I will evaluate the z first, and then sigmoid of z first. A I will evaluate later. So once you evaluate this, then I will evaluate the predicted value. Using this predicted value, I perform the cost. I will evaluate the cost function later. Yeah, x1, x2, and then the x3. So this is considered as a input layer. We know this. This is one hidden layer. In hidden layer, we consider as many as hidden units. So it is hidden from the user. We can see only an input layer and then the output value. Right, this is a one hidden layer unit. So this is the one hidden layer. It's a one hidden, and then gives the different inputs and gives the predicted value. So similarly, in the previous example, xwb and z gives the w transpose x, and then I will later use the sigmoid that gives the activation function, and then based on this is the output. Once you get the output, and then I will evaluate the cost function. So here we have the three hidden units and the same number of inputs and the same x1 input, x2 input, and then x3 input for each of the hidden unit, right? X2 input and then x3 input, and then finally output unit. So I can take xw1 b1. So w1 I will consider this as the 0th layer, and this one is the first layer, and this one is the second layer. Yeah, so xw1 I considered, I evaluated the linear function, and then from the linear function I evaluated the activation function. So I will evaluate the sigmoid. So every one here I have a1, a2, and then a3. So finally, using this a1, a2, a3, I will evaluate. Again, here I will evaluate the z function. From the z function, I will apply the sigmoid. You can observe here in the first input layer, this is in the for the hidden layer, input are the x1, x2, x3. So this is the input. X is the input. I can give it in a vector x3. X as the input. So for this output layer, a1, a2, a3 are the inputs. I will give it as A. All are present in the one hidden layer unit. So same thing I will, yeah, and in every hidden unit, what I am performing, I will take the input parameters, I am evaluating the linear equation Z, and then I will evaluating the sigmoid, that is the prediction value, probability value. So take the x1 and evaluate the probability value for this. I will consider it as A1 and present in the first hidden unit, A2 present in the second first hidden unit, second hidden unit, and the first hidden layer, and this is the unit. Subscript indicates that the unit, and the superscript indicates that the hidden layer. Yeah, I will take all the A1, A2, A3, A4 value, and then I will give it as the input to the this output layer. Output layer again takes the new W transpose value, right? W transpose X. Here we can consider it as a X, and here you consider it as a W, and here so it is W and B. These are all belongs to a 0th value. Right, and then on each unit I will evaluate the what I am evaluating in each unit. I will take these parameters and then I will first evaluate the linear equation, that is W transpose X plus B, and then later I will apply it to a sigmoid that gives us to be a A1 1 here, then and then similarly A2, and then similarly A3, and then similarly A4. And then in this case, this is X, right? And in this case, what I will do, I will consider, I will evaluate all these 4 hidden units input. I will store it into a 1. I will consider it. I am evaluating this. So more pictorial representation it is. A1 is evaluated first, right? Sigmoid Z1, take the input, and then A2 is evaluated, then A3 is evaluated, and finally A4 is evaluated. So once you evaluated the A4, then I will store all these A1 values. I will get this A1. A1 is nothing but the vector. It holds all the values present in the first hidden layer, and that is input to the second hidden unit. So that's all. This is the input to the second unit. Now I get the weight parameter and then the bias parameters. Then we will get the Z value. Yeah, exactly. It is to be the same. I will not go much into the these details. We will see in our tomorrow's session that more practical representation about this. So these are all the theoretical part, and here it is a one layer hidden unit. So one neural network. This is artificial neural network. It's a one hidden layer neural network. And now in the deep neural network, we have the n number of hidden layers, right? Based on the n number of hidden layers, by hidden layers, and based on these n number of hidden layers, you have the more number of hidden layers, then more accurate representation of the human face. Likewise, so that is the more intuition towards the deep representation optimization algorithm, parameters, loss function, forward propagation, backward propagations, epochs. So these are all continued in the next series of lectures as well. So most of the lectures after this, so based on they might be on the TensorFlow, or they might be uses real-time applications. Those real-time applications, they always uses the deep learning approaches. So if they are using the deep learning approaches, then they surely talk about this optimization algorithm. They talk about this forward propagations and the epochs. So yeah, so they talk about this. So before going to the application, it is better to understand those terms. That is why I discussed all these points. Hope these points will be helpful for you to understand the black boxes of the deep learning approaches. Those are discussed in the next subsequent sessions. So any doubts in this case?
So this wire deep representation you will explain in the next session.
Which one, ma'am?
This last slide, wire deep representations.
So in the deep learning approach.
Yeah, in the next coming sessions, you will explain this.
Yeah. In the next coming session, I will discuss about the machine listening and the acoustic scene classification using the deep learning approaches. that time I will discuss about the deep learning models. Theoretically also I will discuss, and also I will build the model using the Keras, and I will tell how exactly.
So, any setup is needed from our side?
No, ma'am. Actually, Google Colab is enough. So if I take any specific data set, I will just share with you the data set. So just you can keep that data set in the Google Drive. Yeah, I will send all the instruction to the Srividya ma'am. So she will tell you. So just data set is required. Other than that, do not require anything. Just we can use the Google Colab and we will perform the experiments.
Hello. Hello, sir. I'm audible?
Sir?
Yes, sir. Sir, as you said that the bias is actually more concerned about the deep learning, right?
Not only concerned about the more deep learning, even we are using the same parameters in the
Machine learning also.
machine learning as well. Sir.
Yeah, basically the bias is just error in training phase, right, sir?
Then that's what there are two terminologies are there: bias and the variance.
Variance, yeah.
Yeah. In case of the variance, if we have to match the good trade-off. If good learning algorithm means it has the good trade-off between the variance and the bias. So it should has the high variance, and then that is not like if it is a good matching between them, then the good learning algorithm. If I have very high variance in my data set, then what will happen is in training it will learn perfectly, but in testing it will not perform better, and then it is goes to the overfitting.
Okay, okay. Fine, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. Yes, yes. So any other doubts? Yeah, I discussed little more mathematics today. So in the next one, we will discuss more about the applications. So just I will use these all the models and try to develop the applications. Some of them you are working on the image processing, some of them you are working on the text processing, some of them you are working on the audio processing. So based on all these inputs, how to use the models, and then in the later part, just I will use the terminologies, optimization, weight parameters, and all those things. So those are all. Then again, I will not explain all these points. So at the starting points, these are all required. That is why I explained with the mathematical concepts. Yeah. So yeah, if no doubts, yeah.
Thank you, sir, Manjunath sir, for your valuable session. It was a very good in detail with respect to the machine learning and deep learning techniques. Participants, now you'll have a tea break session from 11 to 11:30. So we'll get back at 11:30 in the same using the same link. Thank you all.